Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Charleston from HSC Contracts and Grants. I'm the Associate Controller, and our speaker today is Sean Gonzalez. He obtained his BS in Biology and Psychology from the University of New Mexico in 2010. He started his professional career as a research scientist for UNM main campus in 2010. In 2014, he began working for the Mine Research Network as a research coordinator. And then in 2016, he began working for UNM Health Science Center Sponsored Projects Office. He is currently a grant specialist, and he's responsible for our Click ERA programming. He's a trainer and a backup for all other wonderful sponsored projects things. I guess is a good way to say it. And Sean, with that, we'll begin with you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. So this is NIH Budgets, Justifications, and Monitoring. This has been kind of something that we've been working on. So luckily we kind of had something in our pocket when they asked us to do this. So it was really nice. So the key objective of budgets and justifications in NIH applications, the purpose of an NIH budget and justification included in the grant application is to present and justify all expenses required to achieve the project aims and objectives. You'll want to be realistic, request only what is necessary and reasonable, and justify everything, especially the unusual and the big ticket items. Also keep in mind what is allowable. So you may want to look at your RFA, as well as if it does refer to your R&R guide. You will want to be sure that what you're asking for is allowable. So that's a pretty big hang up, is what is allowable. So while reviewers do not or will not use the budget to assess the scientific merit, they will discuss the budget after the application is scored. A poorly prepared budget request can influence the score. So yeah, if they see something that they think is not necessary, or you're asking too much money, or for something because they've seen it done before, then they can it can influence your score and the feasibility of your project. We will examine detailed budgets versus modular budgets and the components of each, common budgeting errors to avoid, and post-award monitoring to help ensure the success of a funded project. So this is kind of what a regular budget looks like. Whenever you do go into grants.gov to create them, this is actually the downloadable version from a project. When you go into grants.gov, to create this and you do a download, it will automatically include your UEI. For the subaward, it will not, because it is considered a subaward. So if you download the subaward budgeting form, it will look a little bit different. For this, you'd want to select the project, because it's the main project. If it's a subaward, you would want to select subaward or consortium. Enter our name. So for us, it would be the University of New Mexico for its Health Sciences Center. For you, it would be the University of New Mexico, depending on which one you're coming from. The budget start and end date. This is going to be, each period is a maximum of 1 year. So you can always add new periods, and we'll kind of get to where you can add the new periods. You can delete periods. You can actually navigate next or previous periods right here. So yes, each one can only be a year. The PI, you'll first want to add prefix, first, middle, last name, their suffix, their base salary. If they work in a calendar month for us, so like 12 months, then you'd fill this in and how many calendar months they'd be putting in. Academic months you'd put here, which is a lot more geared towards main campus. They definitely have academic and summer months, so you'd want to utilize these. The requested salary, fringe benefits, and funds requested. If you're attending our breakout session tomorrow for budgeting, you'll see how our IBW automatically will help you calculate this information, and it makes it so much easier. And I'm sure that you all have a budgeting tool as well that you use in order to kind of streamline this. So add any additional key personnel. You will reach a maximum if you have a lot of key personnel. There will be a maximum. You'll want to add an attachment if you have, like 15, 20 personnel, something like that. You'll add an attachment. What I usually do is I make it mirror this. And so first, middle, last name, suffix, base salary, et cetera, et cetera. I label it at the top, what we're asking for. And I'll add that Excel file as an attachment with everybody's names, etc. So any postdocs, graduate students, undergrad students, secretarial, clerical, etc. You'll want to do the same thing: calendar months, academic months, summer months, however they're going to be paid. Requested salary, fringe benefits, and the funds requested. So for this, again, equipment, if there's large capital equipment, large equipment over $5,000, so that would be listed here. You'd want to do the funds requested, what the type of equipment is. Again, for this, you want to keep in mind that three things: if you're buying 3 pieces of equipment to make 1 large piece of equipment, that does not count. That doesn't count as like equipment over $5,000 if each one was $3,000 and you made a $9,000 piece of equipment buying these 3 individual things. So that's something to keep in mind. Those are all actually separate pieces of equipment that you'd be buying using these funds that would then create this larger piece of equipment. And then you can add additional equipment. And once it reaches the max, you can attach that attachment there. Travel, foreign and domestic. So you'll want to make sure and have these separated out, because they do want to keep track of where and what and how the funds are used, whether it's domestic travel or foreign travel. Tuition and fees, stipends, travel, subsistence. Again, our budget tool does a lot with like what's an exemption and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that could be exempt and stuff like that. So you want to make sure, just right here, there's an exemption right here. So you want to make sure, that you kind of keep track of that. That's a Kate question, and I could ask Kate because she kind of deals with the post-award. So does NIH not consider fabricated capital equipment to be capital equipment? You're muted, Kate, if you
Muted. I think it depends on the type of award it is, to be honest with you. And I'd have to look at it specifically and do some research on it to determine whether it would be considered capital or not.
I would have to agree. So
because some of the different type of NIH awards have different rules and regulations.
Yeah, and that's also something that whenever you are doing things, just pay close attention to your NOA. What the requirements and what they have, and also your RFA. Right. So those are 2 big things. So yeah, so we'll continue on. And we can also, Karen, we can also look this answer up for you later if you'd like, and see if we can get you a more concise answer. So more direct costs, materials and supplies. These are going to be your smaller costs. Usually anything under $5,000 is going to be put under your materials and supplies. Publication costs, consultant services, ADP computer services, subawards and consortium and contractual costs go here. Equipment or facility rental. These are a lot of times if you're working what is considered an off-campus location where you do pay for a facility rental, then that was where that would be put as well. And then equipment rental would also be in that area. Indirect costs, for this line here, we'd actually put modified total direct cost as the type. Because there are modifications, so things that are exempt, it would be a modified total direct cost that you'd have here. Our indirect cost rate, unless the RFA says otherwise, is 52.5%. And you'd put that indirect cost base, which would be that modified total direct cost. So whatever is allowable for us to charge indirects on. So you'd want to put the cognizant federal agency, which on our website, we have the cognizant federal agency person name, their contact information and whatnot. We have that on our website. I'm pretty sure that OSP does as well. And you'd want to include that information there. This does add up your total direct and indirect costs, and any other information that you had up here will be added down here. You will need a full budget justification. So that includes, your personnel, their calendar months, equipment, travel, all of it needs to be accounted for. Everything needs to, it needs to have everything and what you're paying and how much and why. So for a full budget justification. This is kind of more of what it looks like. It's kind of a breakout, and it'll actually, this is the cumulative. So these were actually, if we go back here, this is our periods or a single period. And then our cumulative will pull all of the information that we have from our periods into this whole line item. And you'll want to make sure and compare this to your budget tool. That's what I tell everybody all of the time. Be sure to compare this to your budget tool, because you can, misnumber something or add, put a different number than what you were intending to, either in here or in your budget tool. So it may even be correct here, but wrong in your budget tool. So it's always good to check, especially on our side. We HSC sponsored projects tends to use the budget tool that you all kind of calculated to then kind of go against, make sure that everything kind of matches up. And so that's one of those things that if there is an issue, on our side, we'll definitely make sure and kind of come back and ask questions like why is there a discrepancy? What's going on here? Just to make sure that, you're not either losing out on money or anything like that if something does tend to cost a little bit more or you have a wrong number or something like that. So move forward. So modular budgets. These are actually when there is less than or $250,000 or less. The applicable R grant activities are R01, R03, R15, 21, and 34. So consortium or direct costs are included in the applicant's total direct cost request. So, your direct costs will include subaward information or their costs, their direct and indirect costs into your direct costs. Total direct costs are rounded to the nearest 25,000 module. While a detailed justification for all direct costs is not required, you will need a narrative. So you'll need personnel, their name, their role, and their effort. The consortium, all subcontract personnel, include total costs, direct and indirect costs rounded to the nearest 1,000 for each subawardee. And additional narrative, explain any variation on the number of modules requested annually and list any direct costs excluded from F&A. So anything that's F&A excludable, you'll need to account for that, mainly because they're going to wonder why, because this isn't a R&R budget. Modular budget doesn't really, have you break out every single piece of equipment or everything else like that. They're going to wonder why your F&A doesn't exactly match the funds that you're requesting. So this is kind of a little like budget tool as to like if you have to use a modular budget or an R&R. So we'll just kind of go down the line here. Does your application propose the use of human fetal tissue from elective abortions? If yes, that automatically goes to a detailed R&R budget. Do your direct costs minus any consortium subcontract F&A. So the subcontracts F&A and RF&A are less than $250,000 per year. If it is above that, then it's going to go to the detailed budget. If it's less than that, then we can continue down our line here. Are you applying for a research grant, or are there cooperative agreements equivalent? So R01, R03, R15, R21, R34, or U01. If yes, then you can continue down the line. If no, then we head right back up to that R&R budget form. And is the applicant organization based in the United States? So and for us, we're the University of New Mexico. So that'd be a yes for us. And if not, then it goes back up to that R&R form. And if we have yeses all the way down, then we have that modular budget that we can go to. And it's if you can use a modular budget, please do. They're so much easier. It makes things so much easier for you and for them on their side as well. Okay. Cost considerations and definitions. Direct costs are directly attributed to a project and allowable salaries with fringe benefits, student fees, tuition, consultants, equipment, supplies, travel, publications, shared facility fees, animal costs. Modified total direct costs are direct costs minus costs excluded from the F&A calculation. So any equipment over 5,000, tuition, patient care costs, that would equal kind of your modified total direct costs. And those are just kind of examples. There are more exclusions. F&A, indirect costs, facilities and administrative costs are overhead shared by all cost centers. Specific rate is negotiated by the educational institution, namely UNM and UNM-HSC, and the cognizant federal agency. Total costs are allowable direct costs and applicable F&A or fee for SBIR or STTR grants. Salary cap. NIH actually restricts the amount of salary that can be paid from federal funds. As of January 1st, it was $212,100. If your PI or any person on the grant gets paid more than that, then it's paid out of from UNM. The overage amount is paid from UNM from a different account. Equipment is defined as having an acquisition cost of more than $5,000 and a service life of more than 1 year. If less than 5,000, it should be listed in the supplies category. So applications requesting more than $500,000 in direct costs in any single year must obtain written permission from NIH program staff at least 6 weeks prior to the submission. So most submissions will have that $5,000 cap. Some of them do not, and if they don't have that cap as a regular thing, they will say it in the RFA. They will let you know, hey, we have, $1 million cap or $800,000 cap. But as a rule, there is a $500,000 cap. You do need to have that written permission 6 weeks prior to the submission. So that doesn't mean just putting in this written request 6 weeks prior. That means that written permission has to be back to you 6 weeks prior. So if you do know and your PI knows that you're going to be requesting greater than $500,000 for a project. If you have an upcoming project that's going to be that big, usually you will know that you're going to have an upcoming project that's going to be that big. Get that as soon as you know. As soon as you know that you're going to need that prior permission, get that written permission. Because it's it's the day, it's 6 weeks to the day that it gets back to you that that you can use it. If not, you have to wait until the next round. All right. Budget justification summarized. Reviewers and administrators use the justification to determine the scope of work, if the scope of work can be completed in accordance with the requested funds. Personnel costs distinctly summarize the specific responsibility of each team member. Fully justify large and unusual costs and provide quotes if possible, especially for large-scale equipment costs. Justify the need and the value of all subcontract/consortium partners. Provide a separate detailed budget/justification for each subcontractor. Remember that budgets must also be consistent and compliant with the grantee's institutional policies and practices. So not only do we have to follow NIH's policies and practices, we also need to follow our state law, and even if you scope that down even more, UNM's. So, that's something that you also have to keep in mind, is that things that may be legal, as far as or justifiable or usable or anything as far as at the federal level may not be allowable at the state level or even our institutional level. And so that's something that you also have to bear in mind. So just keep that in mind. Significant over or underestimation of budget costs suggest a lack of the investigator's understanding or of the scope of work. So just doing your research, making sure that, and sometimes getting those, like quotes, for large scale equipment, and having that information is better than, having a huge variation. That looks very bad on our part, your part. And so you want to make sure that that you're as close as possible. I mean, obviously there is wiggle room, and obviously things do change, especially in this ever-changing world of inflation. There will be change between the time you ask for the funds or complete your application to the time that it's awarded. There will be a change, and that is expected, but a drastic change will, they definitely do their research on their end as well. So if there is a huge difference between what you're asking and what they expect it to cost, then it's going to be one of those things that kind of counts against your score. Common budget pitfalls. So exceeding the budget amount limitation as listed in the proposal guidelines and the announcement. Again, getting that permission if you do have that, and if it's justifiable, if it's very justifiable as you would need that, then they're not going to have as big of an issue with it. The wrong budget format. So for example, using a modular budget when a detailed budget is needed. Make sure to do your research, make sure that what your project entails doesn't prevent you from doing a modular budget. So just make sure that it's always, there's a lot of research when it comes to research. So direct costs exceeding the 5,000 and prior permission was not obtained. Cost amounts that do not align with the budget justification. Salaries exceed the NIH salary cap. So calendar months percent effort do not equate the requested salary. Incorrect calculation of the F&A or omission of F&A costs. Consortia F&A included as a direct cost of the grantee or modular budget request did not include F&A for consortia partners at all. So post-award monitoring. NIH awards are administered in accordance with NIH grants policy statement and uniform guidance, 42 CFR Part 52. Any restrictions or special requirements will be listed in the notice of award. That's why I always say, pay attention to your notice of award. It's one of those things that can save you a lot of questions, or save you a lot of time of back and forth with your sponsor project specialist or your post-award person. Knowing your notice of award, using that Control F tool when navigating your notice of award or even your RFA. You can download that PDF for your notice of award and just kind of use Control F and search for keywords. That is like my biggest tool whenever I'm going over anything is Control F, looking for what you're, it kind of saves you a little bit of time for looking for what you're looking for. So like, so if something's subject to FATA, just typing in subject to in your notice of award will kind of show you exactly where you're kind of, what you're kind of looking for and what terms it may be subjected to. Grant funds must be carefully monitored and tracked and reported on to ensure compliance and success of the proposed project. So that's very important to keep track of everything. The nice thing is that, on main campus and HSC, we have a great post-award team that, helps keep you, keep things tracked and ask questions and kind of, it does that, but definitely kind of getting your ducks in a row even before it gets to them is key. The grant is awarded to the institution, not to the principal investigator directly. So this is essentially binding between the university and the grantor, not the PI. However, the PI, the authorized organizational official, department chair, and administrators, along with all project personnel, share in the responsibility of ethical and compliant award management. If there have been any unanticipated changes from the time of proposal to award stages, discuss with your institutional officials. So you may need prior approval. You may need to put in a request. And so discuss any changes, especially very, significant ones. We definitely need to get those prior approvals in before the changes are made. NIH links. I have these links. If you all do want them, you can email me. I can send this whole thing to you. I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat. And I'd be happy to send you this presentation. It's also recorded, but can't really get to the links from a recording. NIH program and grants management staff are listed on your notice of award, or grant announcement FOA or PAR. Your institutional sponsor projects office and grants management office can also help guide you. Post award can also help guide you. Just keep those things in mind. That's why we're here. We're here to help you, pre-award and post-award. We are here to help you, not to block you from getting anything. We want to make sure that you have the most successful grant that you possibly can. So, if we say you can't do something, it's because we don't want you to get in trouble or get your funds taken away. It's not because we're trying to block you. So it's kind of one of those things, just to keep that in mind.